Hey guys, Mustached Tom here to review The Union. I think I saw a trailer for this movie once? Maybe not, I don't know. Anyway, I came across it nonetheless, and I'm here to review it as objectively as possible. So this movie, as you can clearly see, features one Mark Wahlberg and one Halle Berry. More of a comedic, supposedly, action thriller based on the genre. And again, we're here to review it as objectively as possible. So the name that surprises me not on the box, or not on the thumbnail there, is J.K. Simmons, who plays the boss character of this secret group, well, literally called The Union. And we start off with one of their missions. It seems, at least initially, to go off without a hitch. At least the getting their captive and their intel that they want to be getting. But once trying to get out is when things crazily fall apart. First, the van that they were planning to escape blows up. Then, as they try to escape, they get gunned down one by one, and the last remaining guy gets gunned down as well into the water, but he was shot in the chest while others were shot in the head, so that was already a clear indication to me that he was going to be alive at some point, and sure enough, that ended up being the case. Anyway, we then cut to our other main character, named Michael, or Mike for short, so I'll just call him Mike for simplicity's sake. So, he dated, or was in a relationship, quote-unquote, with one of his teachers. Okay. But he did it while he was older, so I guess technically that is fine, question mark? I'm not sure. Like, the start of that conversation does seem to be very awkward, and it definitely continues to be, at least presented as semi-awkward, so I don't know what they're trying to say with that, but anyway. Point out, or moving along anyway, he's at a bar with his construction buddies after doing some work, and they split the bill on a good night out. Meanwhile, Roxanne, the character Halle Berry plays, so I'll just call her Rox for short, or, Roxanne is fine actually. Roxanne heads over to him, Mike, to get him alone, and then drug him, and then bring him to London, and that's exactly what she does. So, this is where J.K. Simmons is reintroduced as another Tom. I know. Grateful for the rap. Anyway, so they update him about what's on this intel and how it would ruin all agencies pretty much, and then ruin even more, so he gives up on trying to leave. He's given the choice to leave by her. His mom calls him, saying how he has found a new love life with her, being Roxanne, obviously. And then, since he's on board, we get a little montage of him training. With a short little training session over, he heads over to the drop-off location and gets moved along in this pretty odd sequence that was not put together by his team, so he kind of just goes along with this. Gets the bag, and he gets the chip rather, and where the auction intel stuff is gonna be like a part of all that. But once he leaves is where the gun out begins to happen, as other units were trying to also get in on this scoop, this intel. So they have themselves a good old-fashioned fight. They lose their intel in the process. So they have no choice but to steal somebody else's intel within the 48 hours where this intel is going to be sold without their, know-how, if they don't do anything. They know which group is the weakest link among them, so that's the group that they decide to go after. Now they have to steal someone else's. However, in the process of trying to get this, they lose another one of their members, who gets killed while being left behind. She was sort of like a car specialist as well as like hack specialist, I guess. And furthermore, even to blow up their ego even more, their home base gets blown up. But they decide, now with it just being the two of them, Mike and Roxanne, head a bit far away. So they find eventually, after they get the intel back, or steal someone else's intel rather. They did so successfully, though they lost somebody in the process. So they need to lock down the location of where where the key location is of this auctioneer. So they get the bidding on their end started to pin down the location, because every time speaking happens on the phone, it gives them closer and closer intel to where this is actually being done from. But they have to sacrifice a quite big lump sum of money, $575 million to be exact, as the FBI, once they get involved, they hit the button too many times and it escalates the price that high. And prior, I believe it was like $300 million, which is still plenty of money, by the way, by all standards. But they manage to get the location. They get to her. They both get the intel from her directly, instead of it being auctioned off. And before they can leave, they get intercepted by the guy who lived at the beginning. His name was Nick, who tells them that Tom is a turncoat that will do stuff with the intel. Lo and behold, he's actually referring to himself, because he's actually in for the intel to sell it to somebody to make that money, yeah, and live up that good life, because he was already turning on them, it turns out, from the get-go. We learn later on in the movie. He's the one who pretty much sold them out on their locations, and he was the one who got them himself shot by someone else, but done so safely enough so that he can come back and do all of this, even more stuff. So, with that being said, he tries to get away. They begin to chase him, or, he gets on his little boat. And so, they are now far behind, so they need to move pretty far, so they move via airports, secretly, of course, covertly. And he gets a little wire card dealing going on there. Mike does. And thus, a new deal. Or the deal between Nick and these other people who want the intel are grabbing that in this location somewhere else, but Roxanne joins the fray of said deal, and during this she hands over the briefcase, which has the intel in it, over to Mike, who uses his bike to try to drive off. He's chased, obviously, and Roxanne goes after Nick there. So they both have these two separate sequences where he gets on the roof with the case, and she eventually joins him after trying to, chase him down a bit, but eventually he gets the case at some point, Nick does. And then they both get in the car, these two different cars. Meanwhile, Mike gets kicked into a third different car and gets driven alongside, so it's like a three-way chase, essentially, for this intel. Mike deals with the driver of the third car, so that there's the fourth guy dealt with. So now they just have to deal with Nick, who corners himself at this pier. He tries to appeal, but trying to find a time where their guard would be down so he could pull out a gun potentially, but Roxanne shoots him down, literally, with a gun, in case that wasn't obvious. And then he returns to this wedding that they were planned. One of his pals were getting married, so he got there. And thus, with her on the process, when J.K. Simmons returns to say that, hey, you're part of the union now, get to work. And then they're like, we're going on a vacation. So he's like, fine, 3-day vacation, but then you're joining the union officially, referring to Mike. And that was the union. And I will say, it was okay of a movie. Okay, I was like, okay. In terms of the comedy, the comedy is probably the bizarre part of this movie, because it didn't feel like much of a comedy. Again, this felt more of a generic action movie. And the whole him being like this, his character being an oddity, I suppose, is like the only section of it that's a comedy, question mark. But those moments just came off more bizarre, if anything. Outside of that, I suppose this movie, The Union, is actually pretty fine. I'd probably give it a solid 6 or 7 out of 10 in terms of a score. It would have been, we see them, her opening up about, how she essentially joined pretty early on, and we see how he is. So there's some character work here. I think I would have liked a little bit more, but, I think it's, again, fine. So I'd probably stick with a 6 out of 10 for this one. I'm a little late on it, but, it is what it is. At any rate, that's my review of The Union, and if you ended up enjoying it, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. 100 to my petition to help out small YouTubers, second to my PayPal, you can help support me and my channel directly, and third to my Discord server, you can join, collab, shield, all that cool stuff for free, and until next time everyone, bye bye.